out of all my aunts and uncles, I probably spent the least amount of time with my Uncle Dan, and a lot of that was geographical. But he was always nice. I mean, he was super nice. I wasn't the greatest kid, and he moved away from where I lived when I was 6, 7, I don't remember exactly. But he was always nice. And, you know, somebody that just is inherently nice, you got to honor. But he moved, I guess I didn't know he moved to New York, but I remember him moving to San Francisco when I was about 7. And, you know, after that, I didn't see him again until his dad's funeral in 1985 when I was 15, and then again at his mom's funeral in 1995. Just, you know, he, as a kid growing up, he was in California and I was in Texas. We moved to Texas. But when I married Wendy, she worked at Nations Bank, not Uncle Dan. He worked at Wells Fargo. If you're taking notes, you need to write that down. But anyways, Wendy was working at Nations Bank, Bank of America now, and she won a trip out to San Francisco. And so we went out there and had a great time, and we got some free time. So I remember we spent an afternoon with Wayne and Uncle Danny, and he took us around San Francisco and showed us all the non-tourist places. That was a good time. And after that, we really didn't see each other that much. And so, you know, when we found out he passed away, you know, you had that initial, oh my gosh, why didn't I keep in touch? Why didn't I, you know, visit more? And, you know, my parents told me, it's like, hey, you're the executor of his will. And I said, really? Because I don't recall him mentioning that to me. And I went back and I searched through my email, executor, trustee, will, anything I could find. And I couldn't find anything. But what I did find was we had emailed each other a lot more than I initially remembered. You know, it was things, hey, my kids are doing this in school and this and that. So he really got on the internet pretty early on. I think he had a Juno account, but he now has a still has a Net Zero account. And so he and I kept in touch a lot over email, and we call around the holidays and whatnot. So, you know, my initial was like, man, I wish we'd talked more, but we really did. So that was good. From San Francisco, he retired to Las Vegas. He's about 15 miles west, his house is about 15 miles west of the airport. We had a chance to meet all of his neighbors while we were there, and they were super nice and talked about how they would interact with them, how nice he was. A few years ago, he bought a house in Pahrump, Nevada, which is a pretty small town, and it's about 6 miles away from the Nevada-California border. And he had a good-sized lot there, and Pahrump, there's like one road that goes, they didn't even like get phones until 1960, but there's like one road that goes through there. And within 5 minutes of being off this main drag strip, you were out in the boonies. I mean, just like neighbors are, you know, you gotta walk for a while to get to them. But his property, he's got his place, and then off in the distance, as you're walking up, beautiful, beautiful mountain range. Really gorgeous. He had said how much better he liked Pahrump than Las Vegas, because in Las Vegas it's very loud and noisy and a lot's going on, and in Pahrump he was able to wake up listening to the birds chirp in the morning. So he really liked Pahrump a lot, as far as I could tell. He liked a lot of art. He liked a lot of stained glass. He liked a lot of color. He had 3 Christmas trees at his house. He had all the holidays covered, lots and lots of holiday decorations. And I've been trying to go through some of his art, and on one of the pieces of the art, I found on the back of it the artist's name. And so I contacted her, and I said, hey, one of your pieces we're thinking about selling. Would any of your collectors be interested in this piece? And she said, actually, I would be interested in that piece. I'd really like to see it again. That's one of the first ones that I ever painted. I remember your uncle. I remember him coming to the store, and she told me a story about, I guess this is one of the first paintings that she sold, and she had it in a frame. And I'm not into art at all, but I'm learning a lot about it. She said that he wanted to buy it with the frame, and it was her frame, and it was her lucky frame. She didn't want to get rid of it, and so she's like, no, I'm not going to sell you with the frame. He came back later and bought it, but she remembered him coming in, buying it. This picture is, I've come to find out, is called The Man with the Dog. And the man in the picture is the artist's uncle, who passed away 3 years ago, last month. So she would like the picture of her uncle back from my uncle to give to her cousin, who is the uncle's nibbling, no, not nibbling, offspring. How about that? I don't know if it's a boy or girl. So, so that painting has made it to San Francisco. This is in San Francisco. He bought the picture, and she's going to pick it up from the UPS store shortly. So hopefully that'll make it back to her. All that to say, I don't know why, but my most vivid memory of my uncle is not the San Francisco trips, but it's when we were in Ohio, and my grandparents, his parents, lived on the lake, and they had a concrete platform off to the side of the house, and we'd have get-togethers there all the time. And at one of these get-togethers, my uncle was having a beer. And I was, I don't know, like I said, 6 or 7, and a know-it-all. And I told him that beer was bad. I probably learned it at school or something, and that I wish they didn't make the beer. And he had a smirk on his face and gave his point of view of why beer is an okay thing to have, and invited me to debate this subject with him for quite some time. I don't think either of us changed the other's mind at the time. And, even today, I still think I'm right, but for different reasons, because I just don't like the taste of beer. But he was always, like I said, very kind-natured, even then humoring the young kid, arguing why they shouldn't make beer. So that's my most vivid memory. Thank you.
We'd now like to hear from David Bannell, one of his nephews.
I knew Uncle Denny when I was growing up in Ohio, and I went to Happy Day School, and Uncle Denny volunteered to help me in school. I learned and everything, and when I went to Las Vegas, he took me out to the chocolate factory when I used to go visit him in Las Vegas, in the desert country, so I had a good time, and he took care of me. And he was special. So that's all I know. Thank you.
The tone of the bell. Thank you so much for blessing this church with the chance to celebrate Danny. We are grateful. Following the closing prayer, for those who can stay, we'll go outside into the memorial garden and we'll intern his ashes with a few words. So would you pray with me? Now we are at the time when we must say a final goodbye to Dan. Brother, uncle, friend, and so much more. In our own sorrow, help us to offer comfort to others. Help us release our sadness in ways that will bring kindness and love to the world. Help us to find hope in all that has transpired. Help us to find in this loss a way to live a life that honors you and honors the heart and soul of Dan. For gracious God, in life, in death, in life beyond death, you are with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. Amen.